Okay, I think I got it figured out. I was trying to do a stream earlier and it wouldn't let me because my settings were all jiggity jacked up from my stupid recording. I'm a little frustrated right now, as you can tell. But let's get to streaming. Please watch or please subscribe to me on SJG Perspective on Minds and on Parler. Those are the two I'm pushing right now. And then I got all this other Twitter and Patreon and Subscribestar and all those. SJG Perspective, you can find me on all of those. Please subscribe. Please also look at me at BitChute. Don't look at me, but just go check out BitChute too, because that's where, there's no censorship. There's no YouTube gods screwing with people. Okay, so let me make sure this stream part is now working correctly. I've been talking here for a few seconds and 50. Okay, yeah, we are. We're good. And I don't have anybody watching right now because I've jiggity jacked it up a couple times. So I'm going to take a drink here and let some people get in here. And then we'll get busy with this. Okay. Let me share this out why I don't have anybody in here right now. I'm going to go back here to this, and I bet you that's going to say that stream is no longer existing. Maybe it is. No, yeah, okay, my bad. Nobody's in here yet, right? I should probably go to the live editor feed. Live feed, actually. Why doesn't that want to show me a dashboard, maybe? Maybe it's dashboard. Where is that not at? Why is that not working? No, that's definitely not it either. Okay. Yeah, why isn't... Oh, I know why. That's why, right there. So I don't think I have anybody in here. Refresh chat. Oh, looks like one viewer. It's probably me. Okay. Oh, lost from my bad stream. Apparently I lost somebody. That's kind of funny. Anyway. Rebel Jack can't hear. You can't hear. Rebel Jack says they can't hear. Okay, 1 second. 1 second. Why can't you hear? Let me find this out. 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Why can't you hear? Okay, well, I can hear. Let me find this. Rebel Jack, you still can't hear? Oh, I'm too quiet. Too quiet. Let me see. Rebel Jack, you still can't hear? Okay, 1 second. I'm too quiet. How about now? Is that better? Let's see how that goes. Jack, you still can't hear? Okay. Okay. Now, is that better? Yeah, that's better, I think. Check one. If I'm up, I'm hitting the red, so I got to be pretty hot. Check one, yeah. So I can't hear. Oh, yes, much better. Okay, cool. All righty then. That's much better, and you can hear it because I'm going to probably get loud at times too. Rebel Jack, I don't think I've ever met you, man. You must be a new subscriber. Did you just subscribe? Because I don't think I've ever seen you in there before. Had some problems if this is your first stream, man. I've had some problems here getting my shiznit working right, but I think I got it. I think I got it in there now. There's a bit of a delay, so I'm going to wait for you to get back to me. On the old chat ski. Let me put this here. Why is that not working? I'm having all kind of problems tonight, man. I'm new. Think I saw on another live commenting. Oh, cool, man. I'm really glad to have you in here tonight. Sorry that it was probably Drone Tech. I was in commenting with Drone Tech, and he's notorious for having audio problems, and I caught his curse. Thanks, Drone. Appreciate that. All right, so tonight, though, we're going to get in, man. We're going to get into this. We're going to get into this crap here and talk about a few of the things I wanted to chat about tonight. Main SJG window with chat. I'm going through my windows here real quick. Sweet. Okay, there you are. There's up there. Oh, Joe sent you. Sweet. American Joe. Love Joe. Yeah, okay, cool. That's good, man. Okay, that's working. Got that in there. Going to sneak out of that. And I want to make sure my article window is loaded up, which, of course, it isn't because I've been jick-jacking around with other stuff. So, oh, there it is. Okay, I guess I am working. It just took a second. Okay, perfect. All right, so we could start with old Jussie Smollett, but I think since he'll be just a quick touch on Get rid of that. That's because I was having problems with my mic. Gonna get rid of that. Oh, I should have shared it out there on this one here. That's my Parler screen. Everybody should go and check out the old Parler. I'm gonna do one thing here. I'm gonna share my stream out on Parler. Why I got you in here. Just hold tight with me, Jack, and we will get after some stuff here in a minute. I'm just gonna post that there. See if that came up. If it didn't, oh well. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. Okay, and I want to post this up here to this channel here, Patriot Channel video onlys. I'm gonna do this one here. Okay. Now please come by. It is working. Okay. Okie dokie. All right. Here we go. Jack, I'm glad you stuck around, man. We'll wait to see if we get anybody else in here, but I'm not going to wait. You've been waiting long enough. Close that. I don't want any of that shit. Crap. Excuse me. I'm a little frustrated because my whole system wasn't working right tonight. So I thought this was kind of interesting. I hadn't done a lot of I'm going to read this one from Vox too, because I want to just see what the far left is saying about the consensus, right? And I think we all can understand, or we all can agree, Vox is pretty damn far left on their political stance. Anybody would say that. So I want to read their article and just kind of pick it apart, and maybe not pick it apart. Maybe I agree with some of what they have to say. I don't know. We're going to do a little bit of a cold read on this and just kind of see what it's all about. I found this whole question about whether people should be able to have the citizenship requirement on the consensus, why this was even a deal. I didn't have any clue. I mean, it hurts my brain to understand why this is even a question. Why is it wrong to put on the consensus a question of citizenship, right? This was a question. This is something that's just baffled me, that if we're trying to get a total number of people in our country, right, total number count of who's in our country, why is it wrong to ask if you're a citizen or not, right? And the left has been pitching a fit about this, and so I was like, well, why is this even a question? Of course you should have that question on there, and you should be able to know when you're doing a consensus, finding out how many people are in your country here, that are citizens and not. And I also thought, well, even if you have that question on there, if they're not a citizen, they're probably going to lie about it anyways. But it's still good to have on there to know who's in here and who's not, And so why is this even an issue or a problem? So I did a little research on that, or I wanted to answer that question, so we're going to read about this tonight. So it says, the latest face-off between House Democrats and President Donald Trump is over the proposed citizenship question on the 2020 consensus. The House Oversight Committee voted Wednesday to recommend holding Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross and Attorney General William Barr in contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with subpoenas in this committee's investigation into how and why the question was added. That is so ridiculous to me that we are pitching a fit over whether or not the question you can ask if you're a citizen or not. Doesn't it just, I don't know, it almost defies logic. Trump invoked executive privilege earlier in the day, refusing to share documents that House Democrats want for their investigation. The congressional back and forth is just one battle in the ongoing war over the citizenship question, which will ask all consensus respondents to declare whether they are a citizen of the United States on the standard census form for the first time since 1950. 1950. What's up, Gator? Glad to have you here, man. The Trump administration claims it needs to ask a question to collect the data for the Justice Department to enforce the Voting Rights Act. Well, that's weird. He wants to enforce the Voting Rights Act that has to make sure that everybody is legally here, or everyone who's here needs to be legal to vote. That's part of the Voting Rights Act. I know there's other aspects to it, but you have to be legal to vote here. Oh, that's weird. And he wants to help us to kind of have this data rather to enforce the Voting Rights Act. But Democrats worry the real motivation is to discourage non-citizens from responding, skewing the population counts used to draw congressional districts and eventually giving Republicans a bigger electoral advantage. Democrats worry the real motivation is to discourage non-citizens from responding. Well, why would that? That doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we want non-citizens. I would think we'd want the non-citizens to respond so we know how many non-citizens we have here, right? The discovery of the hard drives from the Republican operative that included a study on the effect of drawing state legislative districts based on the citizenship population pointed to another political advantage Republicans could gain, and added to a pile of evidence about the administration's original intent. Well, first off, it's kind of the pot calling the kettle black when we just want to know who's here and who isn't, and who's a citizen and who isn't. And they're saying that is going to be to our gain, right? We're just doing that to play a political game for our gain, when all the Democrats want to do is bring in a crap ton of illegals, and once they're in, figure out a way to give them driver's licenses like they're trying to do in California. And then once you have a driver's license, many places you can vote with just a driver's license. All you need is a driver's license to vote in many places. And they're trying to push that more. I will actually correct myself. I don't know if that is law yet in certain states, whether or not you only need a driver's license to vote. I know in Oregon and I know in California, they're pushing for it to be you being able to vote with a valid driver's license, not having to prove citizenship. I know they're pushing for that. I don't know if they've done it yet. I think they have, but I'm not 100% sure that they have. So what they're doing here is they're saying, these lefties are saying that we're trying to gain a political advantage by being able to redraw up the district lines, right, within these districts for to give more electoral votes to certain districts, depending on the or shrink them, be able to shape them depending on the consensus, the return of the data on the consensus, and that's us trying to gain a political advantage for voting, right? When again the Democrats are bussing them in here by the thousands and are pushing to let them come in here by the thousands so that we don't have to, so that they can build their voting block. And then once they're here, they're trying to let illegals vote. There's people that are actually pushing that. I can't remember who they are right now, but I know I've heard it in the news. There's people pushing the premise that illegals should be able to vote, which is the most insane thing in the world to me. And you can call me a bigot or a racist for thinking that, but that's just insanity, craziness. So transparently crazy. Okay, so with consensus data on citizenship, the Republican operative Thomas Hofeller, he's a Hofeller, wrote conservative states with large immigrant populations could vote to exclude non-citizens from the count they use to draw the state legislative districts, consolidating Republican state house control. I want to read that again. With census data on citizenship, not citizenship, but citizenship, the Republican operative Thomas Feller wrote conservative states with large immigrant populations could vote to exclude non-citizens from the count they use to draw state legislative districts. Well, they should. That makes perfect sense. If you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be included in the drawing up the state legislative districts. Why would we, if you're not a citizen here, why would we count your voice in drawing up our political boundaries for our voting, our democratic or our voting practices? Why in the hell would you even? Why would that even be a question? Of course they shouldn't be considered. I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but feel free to correct me in the chat because this is a cold read for me and I'm trying to understand this subject. But to me, it's like, if you're not a citizen, we're not counting you. You may be here, sucking up some of our resources and taking advantage of the welfare and the different safety nets we have in place for our citizens. And that's a whole different question. But you should not, your body, your heartbeat should not be counted in in figuring out where we drop state legislative districts, because your voice doesn't count here yet. You're not a citizen. The Supreme Court will rule by the end of the month on whether the census question is constitutional and whether the Trump administration followed proper procedure in adding the question. The accuracy of the final consent or census count rests on the results, with big implications for how parties are represented in Congress for years to come. The government's justification for the question sounds simple enough. Asking about citizenship will provide more information about who is in the United States, and more information is always good. It claims it's simply reinstating a question that's been part of every census except 2010's, although it hasn't been on the short form used by every respondent since 1950. Okay, so it's been, with the exception of 2010, it's been on every long form, just not on the short form. So it's already been on there. Now we're just wanting to put it on the short form, and they're pitching a fit about it. But critics are skeptical that the Trump administration intends to use citizenship data for good reasons. And they are critics are skeptical that he wants to use it for good reasons. And they are seriously concerned that adding a single citizenship, I don't know why I can't say that word tonight, citizenship question to the 2020 consensus could scare away millions of immigrants from filling out their mandatory surveys. Throwing off the count of who's present in America that's used to determine congressional appointment for the next decade. Allocate federal funding for infrastructure and serve as the basis for huge amounts of American research. I'll read that again. And they are seriously concerned that adding a single citizenship question to the 2020 consensus could scare away millions of immigrants from filing their mandatory surveys. Because we have to ask you if you're a citizen or not? Yeah, it's going to scare, maybe it does scare some people. Who cares? Maybe it does scare some people because they have to, they think that it's going to be used as a blacklist, if you will, to draw up for the deportations. But that's crazy. If you're here illegally, or it says immigrants, but what they mean by immigrants, I think, is illegals. If I'm reading between the lines on this right, from filling out their mandatory survey, throwing off the count of who's present in America. We need to know who's present in America, and we need to know if you're a citizen or not here in America. The Commerce Department, which is in charge of conducting the consensus, claims it added the question in response to a request sent last fall by the Department of Justice, then headed by Attorney Jeff Sessions, that asked for citizenship question on the 2020 census. The Department of Justice reasoning, adopted by the Department of Commerce, was that to appropriately enforce the Voting Rights Act, the Department of Justice needs to know where eligible voters, and specifically eligible voters of color, live, and so they have to be able to distinguish citizens from non-citizens. It makes perfect sense. Am I missing something? Does this not make some perfect sense that that's a perfectly reasonable question to ask? I think ultimately here's the thing, and I've said it and I'll say it again, and maybe I'm not fully understanding this, and I'll be open to readjusting my thought on this when I fully absorb it, but the Democrats want to bring in a whole bunch of illegals and then be able to find a way, once they're here, to get them a driver's license, and once they have a driver's license, be able to get them to vote. And who are they going to vote for? Who is the high likelihood? And this is not coming from some mentality that is bigoted or racist. This is coming from fact that even the Democrats would admit to, that these immigrants and the Latino vote and the illegal, the undocumented people largely would be voting for Democrats. They're just literally importing a voting bloc. A voting bloc of let's face it, the majority low-skilled workers, hard workers. I'm not going to knock them, man. The Mexicans and the Latinos, and they're hard workers. Let's be clear here for the most part, but they are low-skilled workers, and they are going to bring these people in so that they can build their voter bloc. And we're saying, whoa, let's slow the roll here a little bit. We need to know who's here, and we need to make sure that the only people here that can vote are citizens. And we need to know how many citizens we have here. What's our population? Are you a citizen or are you a non-citizen? How many people do we have in here? But critics of the Trump administration see a more political motive. Records exposed in a New York lawsuit over the census question made it clear that their skepticism was well-founded, because Wilbur Ross of the Commerce Department, at least, hadn't been telling the public the whole truth about the process. Emails showed that for months, Ross himself had already been asking around about adding a citizenship question. I don't understand why this is a problem. And Commerce Department officials had tried to get other agencies involved to clear certain legal thresholds. In fact, Ross and the Department of Commerce had to ask the Department of Justice to send them that letter giving the Voting Rights Act rationale. Furthermore, the email showed Ross was warned about potential downsides of adding a new question. Most notably, concerns that it would warp the census results by discouraging non-citizens from responding. But the question was added anyways. Well, if you're not a citizen here, maybe I'm contradicting what I said earlier, but if you're not a citizen here and we're using the census to draw up the proper boundaries for voting and for electoral college allotment and whatnot, if you don't respond, you're here illegally anyways. I mean, it's kind of like we don't want to use that count of a person to help skew an electoral district, if you will. The census doesn't determine who gets to vote, but it does determine how votes count. And voting rights advocates fear that generating citizenship data from the actual enumeration of the census would give the federal government the information it needed to apportion congressional seats based on how many citizens lived in each state rather than how many people. Something that would likely hurt Texas and California. Well, boo freaking who. Right there says it all to me again. It says, but it does determine how votes count. And voting rights advocates, aka hardcore liberal lefties, fear that generating citizenship data from the actual enumeration, from the actual amount of people that are here that are both citizens and non-citizens of the census, would give the federal government the information it needed to apportion congressional seats based on how many citizens lived in each state. Why is that even a question again? We should be only appropriating congressional seats for how many citizens are here. If you're a non-citizen, you don't get the right to vote. You don't get the right to have a voice in our elections. You don't get that. That may sound like a jerkwad thing to say, but it's just factual. I can't move my happy ass over to Russia and then all of a sudden think that when I live there for a little while and say that I want my voice to count in how their government runs. Or I don't get a vote, move down to Mexico and live there for a little while and say, I want my voice to count now when I'm not a citizen and I'm living there illegally, to say I should be able to tell you and your country, I should be able to have a say in how you and your country is ran when I'm not a citizen. Am I way off base here? Please respond to me in the chat here. Maybe I'm missing something here and I'm way off base, but I feel like that's a pretty straightforward, common sense logic and train of thought. Again, it's outing the Democrats really why they want the immigrants here. It could also encourage state efforts to draw congressional districts based on citizen population. The Supreme Court has routinely ruled that states are allowed to use total population when drawing districts, including in 2016 decision where the court sided 8-1 with Texas' use of total population. But it hasn't explicitly said they have to. A conservative state government that wanted to allocate its representatives based only on people who could vote would already be able to do that using the American Community Survey data, because redistricting, unlike reapportionment, is allowed to use sampled data. But it would be much easier if that data were part of the essential census package. Oh, okay. Well, it'd be easier, so then let's just do that. How about that? There is, however, one big problem. Demographers studying the ACS data keep noticing that people often mark themselves as citizens when there's pretty much no way they could be citizens. They've only lived in the U.S. for a year, for example. According to Jennifer Van Hook, a professor of sociology and demography at Penn State University, demographic groups that have large shares of unauthorized immigrants are the ones most likely to inaccurately mark themselves as citizens. Mexican men of working age, for example. So let me read that again. She said demographic groups that have large shares of unauthorized immigrants are the ones most likely to inaccurately mark themselves as citizens. Mexican men of working age, for example. Maybe they don't understand the question, or maybe it's because they are worried about what will happen if they tell the truth. Or you could say, maybe they're worried what will happen if people find out that they're here illegally. The U.S. Census doesn't have a way to fix undercounts. In most demography, say polling when your group isn't as likely to respond as another group, researchers can use statistical modeling to make sure that they don't underrepresent it in the results. The census can't do that. It's bound by the requirements for enumeration, counting. What it gets is what it gets. Over the past couple of censuses, the final census counts have been pretty close to accurate. In 2010, 95% of the households were counted accurately. In fact, overall, the 2010 consensus slightly overcounted the U.S. population. But that takes a lot of effort. Only 67% of Americans respond to the initial census survey by mail in 2000. I don't think I did it in 2000. I was like, I ain't telling you about myself. And 72% in 2010. To get the rest, the Census Bureau dispatched 500,000 temporary census takers to visit houses up to 6 times in hopes of speaking to someone in person, often hiring census takers from within the community to reduce the anxiety of speaking to the government officials. Again, this is a really pleasant way of saying they were talking to people that were here illegally and they didn't feel comfortable talking to government officials. If that didn't work, they'd try to get information from neighbors about who was living in the silent house. And if that didn't work, they'd have to do the nearest neighbor imputation, or basically assuming that the household looks identical to that of the most similar household nearby. The Supreme Court has ruled that the imputation is okay because it's just filling in known gaps in the data rather than speculating about where those gaps would be. Those methods don't get everybody. Van Hook points out that people who return their census forms might not be telling the truth about how many people are in their household because they're trying to protect, say, relatives who are unauthorized immigrants. I love how they say unauthorized immigrants. Or we could say here illegally, right? Couldn't we also say here illegally? Wouldn't that also be an unauthorized immigrant is an illegal immigrant or an illegal alien? We're so scared, man, that the left loves to spin this to where it's like they're unauthorized. They're unauthorized. Kind of like conservatives are on YouTube, I take it. It's kind of the same thing. We're getting very unauthorized lately. Any of these conservative voices, right? Damn near illegal to be on YouTube. I digress. Unauthorized immigrants. Or a census respondent might not count a family friend who's sleeping on the couch for a few weeks while he finds a job because he doesn't really live at the house, but he doesn't live anywhere else either. And then there are the places where people live that aren't on the master list of addresses the Census Bureau pulls together at all. They might live in the back of a restaurant or a trailer in the back of the farmhouse. Places the Census Bureau doesn't think are homes and therefore doesn't send a survey to begin with. That would be such a minute number, though. Seriously, in the bigger 350 plus million people that live here, that would be just such a sliver of amount of people. Unsurprisingly, these sorts of problems are more likely to show up in certain groups than others. African Americans, particularly African American men, have been undercounted in the past 2 censuses. I don't know if I believe that. So have Latinos who were undercounted by 0.8% in 2000 and 1.5% in 2010. The Census Bureau says the change between the 2 censuses wasn't statistically significant. But if the Latino response rate plummets in 2020, the undercount rate will soar. The Trump administration has rejected the idea that asking about citizenship is likely to create a substantial undercount that didn't exist before. While there's widespread belief among many parties that adding a citizenship question could reduce response rates, the Census Bureau's analysis did not provide definitive empirical support for that belief. The memo from the Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said, "That's true. There simply haven't been any studies or experiments either way, and it's totally possible that a citizenship question wouldn't have that big of an impact. Whether because it wouldn't matter that much or because immigrants will already be afraid of the census no matter what it's asking." Right, so it sounds like let's just put it on there. It doesn't really matter anyway, so what's the big deal? Let's just throw it on there. The problem, say demographers and advocates, is that the government is risking a lot for the sake of getting this question back on the form. Usually census questions go through a pre-testing process that can take years, but the 2020 census is already well past the development stage. As the Commerce Department announced the addition of the citizenship question, the Census Bureau was conducting its only full dress rehearsal field test for the 2020 census in Providence, Rhode Island. Advocates and researchers don't have a ton of data to help them predict the impact of adding a question that's never been tested. But for a social scientist, that in and of itself is a reason for concern. Let's read the clarification to be fair. This story has been updated with a clearer description of the 2015 study found of Thomas Hoffeller's hard drive. His study, he studied the impact of the drawing legislative districts based on citizenship population and determined a citizenship question. I keep saying citizenship, like I'm throwing a shit in there. Sorry about that. Would be necessary in order to draw them. So, this is one of those things that's like, man, it still kind of hurts my head and my neck because I was sitting reading that. But ultimately, here's the thing. We should be able to know who's here legally and not legally, right? Who's an authorized citizen and who's an unauthorized immigrant, right? And we should be able to draw up our electoral districts accordingly to citizens. And we shouldn't just be drawing them up by mass population. And see, that's basically what I think I'm understanding the left is saying, hey, you shouldn't be able to know who are citizens in this district or not, because then you can appropriate that district still to just the citizens. We just want it to be how many people are in here, because we keep shipping in the illegals, and they're filling up the country, and so we don't want you to know if they're a citizen or not. You shouldn't be able to be told if they're a citizen. Just count the people and then draw it up accordingly, because they know if we do that, it's going to throw off. Just like they're saying we're doing it for our benefit, they're doing it for theirs, and we're doing it on the benefit of the logic of standing behind the common sense to say if you can only be we're only changing our districts for actual citizens, not just heartbeats, right? Not just heartbeats. This is citizens. The citizens are the ones who should be able to vote and have a voice in how we run our country, not the non-citizens. In a subject. Okay, sorry. All right, let me read a couple chats. I'm going to go to my next article. Oh, man. You paid a lot. Okay, here. Rebel Jack. They're claiming fear to leave their home. I laughed, then asked, how do they own homes? That makes sense. Tyler Levine said, the Mexicans do all the roof work in Florida that I don't want to do. As long as they pay their share, they are great. Right, but you can't pay your share if you're not a citizen. You're not paying taxes, and that's fine. If you're here legally, I have no problem with legal. I have no problem with legal immigration. I think that we should have a cap on how many legals we let in every year, how many people we let in. You should be here legally. We shouldn't just flood it out and open it. But there's plenty of videos and discussions on the kind of maybe to say debunk the work that we wouldn't want to do. That the other people wouldn't want to do. There's plenty of work for people to do that people would do, and wages for those jobs would go up to make people want to do them more if there wasn't so much low workers to pull from, low wage or low skilled workers to pull from that'll work for, that don't have it, that contractors and whatnot can hire and not have to worry about insurance, and farmers can hire and not have to, can pay them basically damn near slave wages. Because if you're here illegally, what recourse do you have? It's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to the citizens who want a good paying job, right? And it's also not fair to these immigrants coming up that are working for dirt low wages. So anyways, we need to know who's here legally. We need to have a grasp on who's here legally. We need to slow down how many people we're letting in here legally. That's just it. And we need to have those who aren't here legally. You got to go. With some maybe with some caveats and exceptions, but by and large, you got to go if you're here illegally. Come back through legally, and we'll set you. We'll work through it at that point. I know that's going to roast some toasties on people when they hear this, but that's common sense, man. That's just damn common sense. Anyways, yeah. So let's go on here to, where's that Antifa thing? So yeah, I was almost not going to talk about Antifa, only because I lose my shit when I talk about them. I can't stand them. And I can't stand the media that absolutely licks their ballsack and praises them and frames them in a way as if they really truly are anti-fascist people fighting the alt-right. Fighting the alt-right. Number one, that word doesn't even have any meaning hardly anymore, the alt-right. What is the alt-right? The alt-right used to be the neo-Nazi KKK scumbags. I would stand shoulder to shoulder with anybody to denounce white supremacists, hood-toting wearing white supremacists who think that white people are the superior race and everybody else is inferior and a piece of crap. We can talk about facts and demographics, and we can talk about statistics that say, hey, we do see higher rates of X, Y, and Z in these demographics, and the factual data we should be able to talk about that without being called a racist. But just because somebody has a different color of skin doesn't make them automatically a piece of shit. Now, having said that, the alt-right doesn't even have a meaning anymore because of Antifa and the far left. Neo-Nazis doesn't even mean anything anymore because of the Antifa and the far left. White supremacist doesn't even mean anything anymore because of the far left and Antifa. Nazi, bigot, whatever you want to call, all those crazy ists and isms you want to accuse people of doesn't even have any damn meaning anymore. Doesn't even have any damn meaning anymore because of the far left, because of Antifa. You, Antifa, you 99% white pieces of shit, scumbag pieces of shit. And I'm really sorry. Hashtag sorry, Cindy, if you're in here. I'm going to get fired up on this. And if Joe comes in, I apologize, Joe. You know what? I'll ask for forgiveness later because I'm fired up right now. And it's every time this Antifa thing comes up, it just roasts my toasties so bad. Because of what absolute scumbags they are. They're scared they don't want to debate on anything. They don't want to have any kind of discussion. They just want to call names. They want to label. They want to dox. They want to tear down anybody who stands for America or believes in America or the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Anybody who has any kind of even seemingly conservative values, they want to call all the ists and the isms that I just went through and talked about. And it's just ridiculous to me. It's so freaking ridiculous to me. And it's becoming ridiculous to everybody. Good job, Antifa. Way to go. You really scored some points here with the U.S. population on what you did to Andy No in Portland. Funny part is I was going to go down to that rally. I was actually going to go down there. I didn't hear. I jumped on to Andy's live stream when he had just started before he got the shit kicked out of him by the scumbag pussies. And I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a protest in Portland. And I want to go down to one of these and I want to just film it a little bit, maybe try to talk to some people. Because I'd love to have a conversation with them if they'd have a conversation. Most of them won't have a conversation because all they want to do is throw piss on you and throw shit on you and throw a whole bunch of names at you and spray you with mace, hit you with locks and crowbars, punch you in the face, throw caustic materials all over you. That's all they want to do. They just want to shout you down, and they think they're doing it because they're fighting fascists. They're a whole bunch of just milk-toasty, soy boy little millennial twats that have sat in their parents' basement their whole life, that were given a trophy their whole goddamn life, that have no idea of actual responsibility and self-awareness. They have zero, zip, zilch, none of it. They don't have it. They want to blame everybody else for everything else. They're nothing but a victim blaming gang. They're just, all they do is they're just the victims. Everything's of the victims. Anyway, so CNN, I want to do two contrasting little interviews that happened here with this whole scenario. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, snap. Something happened there. Okay, so I wanted to first play this video. I want to play this video that was done by CNN. They had it with Andy No, CNN interviewed him. Now, CNN, as we all know, we've all, from the Brian Stetlers to the Don Lemons to the Comos to the Chris, whatever his name is, all the CNN turds, right, over there at the Clown News Network. All of these a-holes have praised and have talked about Antifa in the most flowery golden of light. I don't know if that's even a real saying. It's not, but you know what I mean. They have talked about that. They have never spoke the real truth about them. They always give them a pass, and they frame their headlines with anti-fascist group clashes with far-right protesters. Right? They always make them out to be this Robin Hood-esque type of saviors. Anyway, so this was the interview that CNN gave him. And just notice how cut up it is, and maybe I'll pause it throughout, but let's just watch it.
This morning, there are serious questions about security in Portland after a journalist was attacked there while documenting violent protests between anti-fascist protesters and members of several far-right groups. Joining me now is Andy No. You saw him there in the video. He suffered serious injuries at the hands of some Antifa protesters. Andy, just tell me what happened.
I, as a journalist, was covering a protest organized by Antifa activists.
Keep in mind, this is like a day after, this was this morning maybe or whatever. So this is just like a day and a half when this was recorded. After this has happened to him, and he got a brain hemorrhage. He had a brain bleed from what happened to him.
And the event was billed as resisting fascist violence, but as a journalist of color and a gay man, I ended up in the hospital covering that event with a brain hemorrhage.
A brain hemorrhage. How are you doing this morning? What are your injuries?
I'm glad to be out of the hospital. I'm surprised at various times I'm having these cognitive hiccups that weren't really apparent to me from just laying in bed in a hospital. But now that I'm trying to return to more normal activities, they're becoming more apparent. What was surreal as I was getting beat is that I could actually still see the Multnomah County Justice Center, and that houses some of the most important institutions of law in Portland. It has the sheriff's office, it has the central.
I hope Andy, he's a very articulate guy normally. It's 4:50, it's 5 in the morning when he's doing this, but I really hope that this guy doesn't have permanent like issues, right? Speech issues and whatnot from these pieces of shit, Antifa. You guys suck, man. You guys won't probably ever see this video. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. You guys are just shit bags.
Police precinct has courthouses. And I just kept thinking at any moment after the first punch to the back of my head that police were going to swoop in and save me. But it never happened. The punches kept coming. And as I stumbled away on my own and bloodied, I thought at any point the police would come to me then, and that didn't happen either.
Thank you, Ted Wheeler. Thank you. Thank you, Ted Wheeler, and your far, far left liberal loony politics and leanings that have created this environment and created this situation in Portland by you being the police commissioner and telling the police to stand down. Thank you. Thank you again, Ted.
Let me just read you one of the tweets from the Portland Mayor, Ted Wheeler. We stand against all forms of violence, regardless of someone's political leanings. Portland police officers have had the unenviable task of keeping the peace.
Yeah, unenviable task of keeping the peace when they're told that they can't keep the peace.
It's a difficult job, and hard decisions are made in real time. While we continue to learn more about what transpired over the weekend, we will keep you informed. We'll do everything we can to make sure that those who have committed violence are held accountable.
Oh, great.
You can now search for the phrase work from home jobs directly on.
You get the point. You get the point on that one. So now let's go over here to Tucker Carlson and his interview with him. Okay, let's watch this one now.
Andy No is an independent journalist in the Pacific Northwest.
Big difference, big feeling in how he talks.
Quite a bit. He was at an Antifa rally over the weekend, minding his own business, covering the news. He's a journalist. When he was beaten almost to death by Antifa, wound up in the hospital. He just got out and joins us now on this program. We're happy to see him. Andy, I'm glad you're capable of doing this interview. Tell us what happened.
On Saturday, documenting this protest that was organized by Antifa and its allies, we were a literal stone's throw away from Portland's most important institutions of the rule of law, the courthouses, the sheriff's office, the central police precinct. While hearing people chant, "No hate, no fear," I'm suddenly bashed on the back of my head from behind. And from there, I'm a very passive person. I've never been in a fight. It took me a few seconds to realize that I was actually even hitting my head. When I realized what was happening, it was too late. A mob of people, all dressed in black and wearing masks, started beating me with their fists, and some of them used objects to hit me. I don't know how many people were involved. It seemed like 5, 10, 15, or 20. It could have been that many. They beat me so much that I lost control of my GoPro camera that I was holding, which was then
Which they stole.
stolen from me. And when I thought it was over, I was wrong. I put my arms up to try to shield my face as
Look
well
at that.
as to
Look at that. Look at these scumbag pieces of. This is a guy that's going like this, can't see this little 5'0" Asian gay guy, which Antifa says that they are against. Like right here, let me show you. Let me show you what this Antifa says. Antifa says a political protest movement comprising autonomous groups affiliated by their militant opposition to, wait for it, fascism and other forms of extreme right-wing ideology. Right, in one of their little statements, they talk about how they are against homophobicness and violence against minorities and violence against the oppressed. Right, and yet they're beating up an Asian gay guy that's 5'0". That his own words out of his own mouth, he said he's never been in a fight before. And there, look at these shitbags. Look at him, and he's blocking his eyes, and they're plowing him in the face.
signal to them that I was surrendering and that I wasn't there to fight, but that really signaled to them to be more aggressive.
Yeah, because
So
they're a
then
bunch
they
of
started
pussies.
dumping what I believe were milkshakes and eggs, throwing it at my face, which blinded me. So
Look
I
at
couldn't
that.
see, and I was kicked some more, punched some more, and all this time I
Rock
kept
hits him in the
thinking,
back.
where are the police? I could still see the Multnomah County Justice Center in front of me, but no police ever arrived. I eventually stumbled away.
Watch a rock hit him. Boom.
bleeding.
Something.
Across the park.
Spraying
and I
spraying
lost my
something in
balance,
his
so
face.
I sat down on the ground in front of the courthouse. And from there, a medic SWAT team informed me that in order to get an ambulance to be taken to a
So we basically, we've heard it so many times by now that I don't want to try to beat a dead horse here on this. But that to me is just so terrible. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than it's going to be getting to a serious point where, and I'm not advocating for this and don't want this to happen, but it's going to get to a point where real violence is going to happen. What's next? What's next that's going to happen? Antifa now, and Vox is even coming out, the far left is saying they should take back gun rights, so they should arm themselves. We know the right's already armed, right? And so what's the next step in all of this? Where does it go from here? Where does it go from here? From milkshakes and bats or, punches to a miscalculation and somebody bringing a gun, and then all of a sudden bullets are flying and we have a mass tragedy on our hands when we get a whole bunch of, people on the right or conservatives getting shot up. We have this mass tragedy on our hands. This is going to, it could escalate quickly into something way worse than it ever should be. And all because they want to silence speech. All because Antifa says they're doing this because if people are allowed to have free speech, they're going to stir up and foment violence, and they're going to stir up and create more alt-righters and more neo-Nazis that are going to go out and spread their message of hate, right? And are going to go out and cause all these problems in creating a against the marginalized and so on and so forth. Patriot Prayer is not out marginalizing people, trying to get people. They've been called an hardcore alt-right by them and accused of being fascist and Nazis and so forth. They couldn't be farther from the truth. I know most of the Proud Boys aren't, even though there was some bad Proud Boys that I'm not going to defend. And then they use these like things about in what happened in Charlottesville, right? Which was terrible. Charlottesville was terrible, man. No joke there. Yeah, what happened in Charlottesville was gross. And then we get people twisting what Trump said that what happened in Charlottesville. That classic line that he said there was good people on both sides talking about the neo-Nazis, and that's how the left spins it, when Trump clearly said he wasn't talking about them. Right? But this kind of pampered terrorist mob protesting by Antifa because they just hate all things Americans so bad. They are literal communist Marxist lovers that just want to see total anarchy and total tearing down of anything that's an inch far to the right from them. There is no freedom of thought. There is no freedom of speech with them. You either agree with them or you get Andy Node. You agree with them or Andy Node. And you know what? I don't have the clips here, but Andy's injuries weren't even as bad as what happened to a couple of the other guys. Kelly Adam, I don't know his name right now. I apologize. I might have him on my stream, actually. He's the dude who got 25 or 50 staples in his head because some shitbag pussy-ass little soy boy snuck up from behind him with a padlock and a sock and swung it and split his head open, gave him a 3-inch gash on top of his head. Split his head wide open, and then some other douchebag hit him with a freaking crowbar. And then this 50 or this 60 or 70-year-old guy was walking and gets knocked down, bloodied up his head, all terrible bad. All from Antifa. All from Antifa. Well, Antifa, you are pissing on the wrong fire. You are pissing on the wrong fire. It's like pissing gasoline on a campfire is what you're doing if you continue to do this. And I'm not advocating for escalated violence, but it is a 2 + 2 = 4. And that is what's going to happen if this shit continues to happen and go. We should be able to have a conversation of thoughts and conversation of ideas, a conversation, and let the good ideas float to the top and the bad ones, let them organically dissolve. Oh my God. It's just so fires me up. Oh, so much here. I'll try to get to your guys' chats here in a minute. So that one was that one. Let's lighten it up for a minute here. Let me see. What's this one about? Oh, that's not really lightening it up. Oh, man. This is another one. Another one that fires me up. Oh, I don't know if I should do this one. Yeah, I'm going to. DHS Inspector General finds dangerous overcrowding in Border Patrol facilities. The Department of Homeland Security Officer Inspector General is warning about dangerous overcrowding in Border Patrol facilities in the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas. Okay, so whose fault is that? Everyone's going to blame Trump for that, right? Who has been screaming for the last year that the immigrants need to stop coming up here? Who has been funding the caravans to bring them up here? Who was screaming at the top of their lungs saying that there wasn't a crisis at the border and was manufactured? The Democrats, the liberals, the far left, saying that there isn't a crisis. All of a sudden, when it is undeniably a crisis, all of a sudden they can't deny it anymore. Then they switch and say there's a crisis at the border. Trump trying to tell people don't, all the rapes and all the assaults on the girls that are coming up here from the shitbag cartels that are all the human trafficking that's taking place, bringing these people up here. There's so many points on this one. I wanted to have this one a little more laid out before I went into it, not going into it so emotional, but I'm just going to go in. Exactly right, Tyler. If the Border Patrol facility is overfull, they can turn around and go home. And that is exactly freaking right. Everyone is claiming that now this is Trump's fault because these are overcrowded and we don't have any place to put them. How dare you, Trump? You're caging these kids. You're caging these people like animals. Trump was the one saying, don't come, don't come. You can't come. We have too many, you can't flood in here, don't come. So now they come up here and he's like, okay, we got all these people up here. We need money for funding for these facilities. And the Democrats wouldn't give it to him. Finally, they give it to him, and before he even has enough time to enact it and start to get that money into the system to where we can start taking care of our detention centers, all of a sudden, the Democrats come raging in and saying how terrible it is. That AOC, the liar AOC, the complete photo op, cheerleader for all things far progressive left, AOC comes up then and demeans, or rather criticizes the conditions. Yeah, that's why we were asking for more money, is because the conditions were shitty. The conditions were shitty because you Democrats kept telling everybody, come on up, because you're trying to build your voter block like we talked about earlier. This kind of stuff is just freaking absolutely ridiculous to me. That we can in any way, shape, or form think that this is now Trump's fault. That this is the conservatives' fault, that there's overcrowding and the conditions are terrible. We told you they were terrible and that we couldn't handle it. And you guys said there wasn't a crisis. There wasn't a problem. Meanwhile, was it Soros that was funding all these caravans on the way up? Right? George Soros is funding all these caravans to come on up by the thousands, by the tens of thousands flooding in. The Border Patrol is saying, hey, we are overran here. We can't do this. We need to slow them down. And that's why I also say about immigration, conservatives aren't against immigration for the most part. We are for legal immigration. And we are for a set amount of legal immigration every year, the set amount that your country can handle. We have an opioid crisis of homeless people turning our cities into ghettos, and we're ushering in more people that we can't even take care of our citizens and the ones we have. And now we want to just say bring in more, and we just flood them in more. That we should have open borders. We shouldn't have any rules or regulations. We should just let them in because that's the moral, nice, compassionate thing to do. No, it's because you want to build your voter block. Ultimately, the Democrats don't give two shits about the immigrants. They want them in here because they want to build their voter block. That's why they want them in here. And then all of these politicians that are screaming the loudest, from Pelosi to Schumer to all these other ones, are the same ones that 5 years ago were coming out and saying, we need to stop all this immigration. We have too much immigration coming in. We have an immigration problem we need to stop. Does anybody forget that Obama deported more people than Trump has? Obama deported more than Trump has? That these detention concentration centers that were being echoed a few weeks back by AOC and the ilk, that those were actually instituted and used by Obama before Trump? Does anybody want to talk about that? It is such a mind screw that is happening right now. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable that you are called a bigot, a racist, a xenophobe, all these other crazy ifs and isms when you simply say, I want people to follow the rules. Is that too much to do? Maybe too much to ask? I don't know. That might be too much to ask. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to ask the wheel. Let me ask the wheel. I'm going to spin the wheel here, and we're going to ask the wheel. The wheel of truth is going to tell us is what I'm asking too much is if, can we please, is immigration, what's the question I want to ask the wheel right now? If it is silly, if illegal immigration or open borders, should we have open borders? Don't let me down. Don't let me down, wheel. You better come up with utter bullshit on this one. Not likely. Not likely. Not the answer I was looking for. I'm going to try it again because it's my damn wheel. Unsure. This wheel really sucks. I'm going to fix it. Nope. I don't even know what the question was anymore. I'm going to frame the question after this answer. Yes, that was the question I was looking for right there. That was the answer I was looking for. My wheel's broken. I apologize. But is letting as many people in a good thing? No, that's utter bullshit. The wheel just said it. I had to do it 3 times, maybe 4. Who cares? In strongly worded report, Inspector General said the prolonged detention center of the migrants without proper food, hygiene, and laundry facilities, some far more than a month, require immediate attention and action. Blah, blah, blah. I wanted to read one part down here. I've already pretty much, right here. In May, according to DHS, an average of more than 4,600 people a day crossed illegally. 4,600 a day. And this is from NPR. This is not some right-wing propaganda, right? This is from NPR. You can't get much farther left and more liberal than NPR. In May, according to DHS, an average of 4,600 people a day crossed illegally or arrived at ports of entry without proper documents, compared to less than 700 a day in the same period 2 years ago. So why all of a sudden was 4,600 a day coming across illegally? It sure as hell wasn't because Trump was hey, come on up. Got open borders here. You can stay. No. Who was saying that? Who caused this problem that we're facing now? Who caused it? The Democrats, the liberals, the same ones that 5 frickin' years ago were screaming at the top of their damn lungs that we need to get our immigration under control. But now that Trump's in office, they don't want to give him a win. So what do? They bitch the loudest about it, and they say that it's Trump's fault. It's unbelievable. But guess what? We're onto your shit. We're onto your stinky pile of poop. That's what we're onto. We're onto you. And we're calling it out. And that's also why, coming back to the YouTube censorship, and I'm bouncing all over because my ADHD is kicking my ass right now, comes to why YouTube wants to censor and the big tech companies wants to censor voices like mine. That's why I ask each one of you guys right now to please go subscribe to me on Parler, Parler, SJG Perspective, or Minds, SJG Perspective, Minds.com, or BitChute, SJG Perspective. Please go subscribe on one of those because the day is coming when YouTube will not want us here and will shut us down. Hopefully some of these other ones that are cropping up and popping up will be suitable alternatives to YouTube, but they are silencing us. And just like Project Veritas said, right? Just like Project Veritas disclosed here not too long ago, they said that the whole reason why, they are literally trying to censor. There is no doubt about it. Google is trying to censor conservatives because of the 2020 election, and they know the part that the conservative voice and the independent, content providers and independent voices on social media did to help Donald Trump get elected, and they're censoring us. They're shutting us down because of it. I gotta take a drink. Let me read a couple chats here and just see what's up. It says, "What's up? I'm back. Glad to have you back, Gator. Love you, brother. Hello, everyone. How are we doing tonight? Rico, we are doing great. Tyler said, if the Border Patrol facility is overfull, they can always turn around and go home. Amen to that. Michael Hodges, wow, I found my new favorite late night show. Well, awesome. Michael, I'm so glad to have you. I don't recognize your name. How'd you get in here? Throw that up in the chat, man. Throw that up in the chat, how you found us and how you got here, man. I'm glad to have you. Good old Richo from Gator. Tyler says, I don't understand how AOC got into Congress. The only thing the only thing is vote for her on is who I want to bang on a picnic table at 3 a.m. when I'm drunk. Okay, I should have read that one first before I aired it out there. But yeah, that's funny. AOC can only ran for Congress to get rich. Yeah, it's pretty much. What's a garbage disposal? Yeah, exactly. Do you really think she's that dumb? I mean, I wondered, is she really that dumb to where she didn't know what a garbage disposal was, or does she play in this dumb game? Is she playing up this dumb game a little bit? I go back and forth on it. I don't think she's the smartest, the sharpest dart in the board for sure. But oh man, it blows me away if she truly is or truly is that. Retarded. But I don't know. Maybe she is, because I guess that's possible. So NASA is coming up with the 50th moon anniversary. It's going to be on July 20th for the 50th year that we didn't land on the moon. And so yeah, for any of you guys that are new here, you might like me, you might not. I'm kind of I don't believe we went to the moon. I think think that was a really great psych op that we pulled. But anyways, on July 20th, 1969, I pulled this up for you guys can see it. It says NASA put a man on the moon. Yeah, and captured it all on tape. And then they lost those tapes forever. In fact, actually what they did, as you're going to read in this article here, is they gave those tapes away on Tony Patriot, or was it American Joe show? I can't remember. Okay, well, either way, I'm glad to have you here, man. Really glad to have you. It says now NASA. In 1976, In 1976, the space agency unknowingly sold those tapes of original footage from the Apollo 11 lunar mission to a lucky intern who held on to them for decades. He never knew their contents. So this is something that should just make you go, that seems a little weird right there. The fact that the single biggest accomplishment of mankind, putting a man on the moon, the only country that's ever done it was then. No one's done it since. With all the technology we have, we had the technology of a toaster back in 1970, right? And we have literally supercomputers in the palm of our hands now, supercomputers, and we can't put another man on the moon. We struggle. China, or was it China or Israel, failed to put an unmanned probe on the moon in one of their recent attempts, right? We can't barely even put an unmanned probe on the moon, but we did it, 6 times, 7 times? How many times was it? 6, 7 times? I forget right now. We did it multiple times flawlessly back in 1970. And then, like this article says, they unwittingly, with that original videotape of this most monumental mankind accomplishment of all time, unwittingly sold in an auction the original footage. Oops, we didn't. Oh, we sold that to an intern in an auction for $217. Our bad. Oops. Really? Really? Doesn't that seem like that footage would have been held in an HVAC, in a temperature-controlled room, lock and key vault, a vault under lock and key and guard, to make sure that footage was never lost or damaged, and we gave it away to an intern for $217 in 1976? I'm calling some serious bullshit on that. That's what I'm calling now. And I kind of think what this propaganda spin story is that it's coming up we're coming up to the 50-year anniversary, and they lost all the telemetry data. We don't have any of the telemetry data anymore. Maybe you didn't know that. We don't have any telemetry data on it. We don't have any of the figures of how we got there and how we got back, all the calculations and equations. We don't have any of that. That's one of the reasons why recently some NASA schmuck has said why we can't go back. It's because we lost that information. We lost the information that told us how to get there back in 1970, and so we need to recreate that before we can go back. We lost it. Oops, our bad. The janitor crew. We had a bad janitor crew, and they threw it out. So that's our mistake. Oops. Please, can we use some common sense here? The reason we allegedly went to the moon was to slow down the space race and to let everybody know that we did it and to demoralize everybody else. And do you think even just doing that would be enough to stop Russia, who was already kicking our ass in the space race before we did it? They were whooping our butt on it, and then all of a sudden we did it, and they're just going to give up, or China or any of these other countries that had space programs between 50 years ago. It's been 50 years since we put somebody else on the moon. It's just that alone is enough to go, that sounds funny. And the fact that we did each one of them flawlessly with the exception of Apollo 13, or was it Apollo 12 or 13, whatever, the one Tom Hanks was in, that one. Well, that was the only one where we missed on, right? And all the other ones, we even took a dune buggy up there. Says here, I went to the moon once, then the drugs wore off, and I realized I was just walking around naked in Wendy's parking lot. DMT will do that to you, Tyler. It will do that to you. Michael said, my biggest flag is how the hell were there 3 men who accomplished the most significant achievement in the history of man? Why were they never so excited about it and hardly talked about it? Exactly. There's all of these little tiny points that just don't make sense. And the reason they don't make sense is because it's not true. And you know the whole thing about lies, when you tell one lie, you got to tell another lie, and then you got to tell another lie. Well, then you got to tell another lie to keep that lie on. It's a pretty big lie. Now, see, some people will say that's why we did go, because there's no way we could have kept all the secrets so long. No, 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 no. And there was thousands of people that were involved in it, and they all knew. There's no way they'd all be able to keep the secret. No, 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 no. That's very easily explained. There was a core group of people. There was a core group of people who fooled everybody, including those that were involved in the making of the ships, and also those who were sending them off into the wild blue yonder. Right? Do you realize all the footage that you see, like part of this whole thing of talking about the footage is people are like, well, I can go on YouTube right now and see the footage. What are you talking about? We don't have any original footage. None of that's original footage. Do you understand that we had the technology? Let this blow your mind for a minute. If we had the technology to send somebody to the moon, right? And to beam back a signal 134,000 miles, I think it is. Could be wrong on that, but I believe it's 134,000 miles, or the moon is away from us. 130-ish thousand miles away from us. We had the technology to beam back communications in 1969, 68, 69, 70. We had the technology to beam that back from the moon to Earth, right? But we didn't have the technology to feed that live signal out to the millions of people watching it on their black and white TVs. Might have been color TVs at that time, but I don't think so. I think they were still black and white. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. Regardless, we didn't have the technology to beam that out live to all those. We could beam it back from the moon, but we can't beam it out to all the people watching. So what they did is they actually had a video camera, and they video cameraed the monitor. They were just like cameraing the monitor. I don't know if they were actually turning their hands like this. Probably it was pretty close. Maybe a year before that they actually got past the whole like having to turn. And so maybe they could just hold it. But regardless, they were holding a camera on a monitor and feeding that out to the people. So that's the footage you see now. So this is a big breakthrough because now we have the original footage that was shot in Laurel Canyon. We have the original footage that was shot in Laurel Canyon. If you don't want to know what about Laurel Canyon is, look up David McGowan's Laurel Canyon. Do some research on Laurel Canyon for me, okay? Do your own research. You'll find it very interesting. David McGowan, Laurel Canyon. Do some research on it. Pretty interesting. But it's a big studio up there in California, and it was really top secret. Anyways, I got on this whole little thing just for kind of a side note to get me calmed back down from the whole Antifa stuff, because that obviously got me really worked up. But yeah, this is hilarious. So they sold the box of tapes that were originally for $217 to a intern, and then now they've tracked those down, and they're going to go up to auction and bring millions. So there's that. Then we have Jussie Smollett. So Jussie Smollett, man, oh, poor Jussie. If you guys haven't watched my Jussie's Boys video, go watch my Jussie's Boy video. It's a pretty funny video, parody video. And anyways, we all know old Jussie, right? Well, look at this little clipski whipski from TMZ about Jussie Smollett. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if it'll. So there goes the two Nigerians right there. Let me pause that. That's Abe and whatever is, let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. So there's Abe and what's not, right? His brother, the two Nigerian dudes. They're walking, we'll say left. Okay, so they're walking left. Could be south, east, west. I don't know. They're walking left on my screen. So they go by, and then in 20 seconds or so, you're going to see Jussie walking the other way before he got a sandwich. There they go. All right. Talking. They get out of the camera view. They probably stop and chat with him. He gives them the directions of what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. Make sure not to rough him up too bad, because he does have to, he still has his career to think about. So, but sell it, sell it. Just don't sell it too much. Coming up here real quick, we're going to see Jussie walk across. Wait for it. Wait for it. It's coming. Wait for it. Wait. And I swear it's coming. I hope it. There he is, right there. Let's pause it. Boom. There's Jussie. Jussie's right there. Jussie. Now, Nigerian guys go this way, Jussie goes that way. They probably stopped right around this corner over here, had a little chitskatsky, and he told them what they're going to do. He might even be texting them right now. Okay, now make sure you don't hit me too hard, and, put that noose around gently, but do get the noose just right. And he walks the other way. There's Jussie right there. That's him. Pretty interesting, huh? Pretty interesting that they had. Now, one of the points they bring out in this little article is that they had that opportunity, these two Nigerians, if they really were just beating them up, they had that opportunity to jump old Jussie. They talk about another video camera where Jussie's walking down the street. Nobody's around, and the two Nigerian dudes are also there in that one. They had that opportunity to jump him, but they wait till he's coming out and he's by the subway when the plan was supposed to go down to jump him. So, I mean, I don't think that's any big of a mind blower that Jussie is a complete and total fake. And you think about that, man, how he walked from that. And the connections to old Miss Kamala Harris. Check that out. Jussie Smollett and Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris's anti-lynching act that she was trying to get passed with Cory Booker, right? Cory Booker and Kamala Harris were trying to get an anti-lynching bill passed roughly around the same time, a little bit before. Maybe it was a few months before. This whole thing happened with Jussie. Jussie actually went on some walks and some protest marches with Kamala Harris, right? And then Kim Foxx. Interesting thing about Kim Foxx. Don't forget about Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx was the district attorney in Chicago, right? Kim Foxx actually had some connections with Obama through Obama's old staffer, one of the staffers that was with the Obama administration. Kim Foxx was good friends with her, and she's good friends with old Kamala Harris. And then magically, all of a sudden, the charges on Jussie get dropped. They just get dropped. He's not 16 felonies. They're dropped. So we thought. He's still trying to claim his innocence, still trying to say the check for $3,500 that he wrote these guys because he's brilliant, right? He's brilliant. He writes them a check. He writes them a check for $3,500 to do this to him. He can't even use cash. I mean, damn it. You could have used Venmo, I guess, but maybe that still would have left too much of a trail. Yeah, I guess it totally would have. Why don't you Bitcoin? That would have been a way better option. Bitcoin, man. Decentralized currency. It would have been a way better option for you, bro. Anyways. He doesn't. He pays him with a check. So he's still trying to claim his innocence. Well, I'm glad that they've reopened this case and they're going back after him. And Jussie, I hope you get everything coming to you, bro. I hope you get everything coming to you, and I hope you get a nice, warm welcome and introduction to Bubba in prison. That's what I hope's coming your way, because of what you did could have caused a full-on race war in this country. If that wouldn't have been proven to be the scam freaking hoax that it was, think about the unmitigated shitstorm that would have started. Man, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy to me. Okay, guys. I've been streaming for an hour and 15 minutes and just ranting. So I'm going to read a couple more chats and then I'm going to jump out of here. It says, okay, yeah, I left off. I think I said, found you on Tony's greatest hoax of all time, those moon landings. Who put the first camera there? First of them stepping onto the moon for the first time. Exactly. A very good point, Richo. I like that. That's another one I've touched on. She's definitely a few beers shy of a six-pack, shy of a load, brick shy of a load, fry short of a Happy Meal, cheese slid off the cracker, elevator doesn't go to the floor, top floor, bullet shy of a full magazine. Amen to that, Gator. I think you're still talking about the AOC ski. Put a few more bullets in her than laugh out, Tyler. Be nice. Who stayed behind to capture the lunar lander on the film taking off from the moon's surface? Exactly. Very good point. Exactly, Richo. And the flag waving in the non-existent wind, unless the solar storm. Yeah, well, some of them say that that's because it was made out of a hard material. It wasn't actually a flag, and so that's why it moved a little bit is when they put it. Yeah, that's still. Some people try to debunk that, but that's a great point. And you bring up solar storms. This is something other people don't talk about. The moon is pelted by micro meteorites all of the time, like pretty much constantly. There's a shower of meteorites hitting, and there's no atmosphere, so they hit it. And these are like little tiny micro bullets, like we're talking micro small to pebble size bullets all the time hitting the moon. They would have ripped them to shreds. They're going at thousands of miles an hour. They would have ripped the astronauts and, and whatnot to shreds. So that's another thing that points out the bullshit in it. The biggest flag, that's why I read that one. We go to the moon because we need to play golf. Yeah, exactly, Richo. I don't know if you watch mine, but yeah, we go all the way to the moon. You guys should watch my Moondoggy series if you haven't. I touch on a lot of this stuff. We go all the way to the moon just to hit a golf ball. Think about it. If you go to the moon, you'd be doing high jumps. You'd be doing somersaults. You'd be doing all these things if you had near zero gravity, right? And you hit a damn golf ball. You hit a damn golf ball. Speaks in Rick James. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. It was LSD. 283 miles to the moon. Is that round trip, though, Tyler? 283,000 miles? I thought that was round trip. Maybe you're right. Could be wrong. Maybe I just halved it. Said 134. That wouldn't be exactly half, but you mean what I know. Michael says there's two possibilities. One, we did go and found something we never should have seen. Or two, most likely we never went and it was a hoax. I'm going with number two. Look up the video game on YouTube. We never went to the moon. Great doco on it, and old footage shows how they faked the Earth looking like a sphere. Yeah, I know, and it was terrible faking too. Michael Hodges, but Jussie wouldn't be his mother's child if he was capable of half of what they accused him of. Come on, his is a victim of all of his own stupidity. Yeah, he's a victim for sure. He is a victim of his own stupidity. Too bad Jussie didn't pay me. I could use the money, and I'd do it right. Jussie was in the Mighty Ducks movie. Guess that won't be my favorite movie anymore. Oh, I didn't know that. Really? He was? That's interesting. Well, yeah, exactly. Where can I find Nigerians like that, like Jussie's bored? Yep, that's a good tagline. Or that's a good hook line. Is average distance one way. It changes. Oh, okay. I thought it was 134, but either way, that's even better. It's even more to my point. It's been a minute since I was researching. I'm going to get back to it, but I'm thinking about creating another channel to do it because there was another conspiracy channel that got taken. They got their whole channel deleted because they were doing too much on the moon and some other stuff. And so I was planning on, back when I started this 7 months ago, before YouTube got really Orwellian and authoritarian, just doing all my series here on this channel. But I might create another channel, which I'll link you guys to if I do, for my moon series, because I don't want this channel to get taken down from that. So yeah. It says, I looked it up. I didn't know the moon answer off the top of my head either. I did know it when I was doing this series here a few months ago, but yeah, it's my point is, it's a pretty damn far long ways away to be able to beam a radio signal and video signal back in 1970, but not have that same technology to beam it out straight to the people watching it on TV. It's kind of funny to me. Anyways, all right, guys, it's 11 o'clock my time, and Gator, you're way past your bedtime, man. I appreciate you hanging out. I wish we would have got Rational in here. I think I had him on my first one, and then that one didn't work out, so I just walked away from it. Because my audio was all jacked up. But anyways, guys, I appreciate all you guys being here and hanging out with me. It was a pretty good showing for me. I mean, not a ton, but it's like, we averaged 8, 9 people the whole time. So that's cool. So my tagline, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell and check all your bell notifications. I think you guys are here because you got them, but a lot of my people don't have them. The notifications got taken off. So always double check to make sure you have your bell notifications on. Tyler, you need to go sleep, man. I appreciate you being here, but damn, 2 a.m. Great hanging out. Have a great night, where you may be. I appreciate you guys, and until next time, without fear or animus, it's SJG Perspective, and we will see you later when I see you. All right, later, bye.